right, picking up on the previous discussion, and I'm like jumping directly into this because I'm already in the mode of discussion. In the previous post and video, I said why are black women hoopers failing to get signature basketball sneakers, and I placed the onus onto the brands because inside of the brands there's not enough diversity and not enough people to advocate for. Do you actually have to have the right people inside of a company to advocate for athletes of the same race and culture? I think so. I think you have to find the best candidates. Of course, always hire the best people. Always hire the best people. However, try to do it with a bit of diversity in mind, because if you're a brand, you have to hit as many targets as possible. And that means you have to hit people from different backgrounds. That's kind of critical to the success of a brand. If you stay in one lane for too long, your growth plateaus. You have to begin adding to that lane so you can reach and hit different locations. If like Route 66 stayed Route 66 and never split off, and I'm looking like I'm doing timelines in different universes, if it never splits off into different parts of the country, we don't get the ability to drive quicker across country, right? Diversity is a superpower, whether people want to admit that or not. If you have the right people in your house, then you can reach as many people as possible. And Nike and all of these different companies, they tend to be situated in places that have smaller populations of black folks and brown folks and yellow folks. And I mean, all of these different cultures. When you look at the diversity in Portland, you don't have that many black people or diverse people in Portland. You don't have that many diverse people in Boston. You don't have that. Now, you do have a considerable amount of minorities in Boston, but the diversity there is smaller. And these are the places where the sneaker industry sits. The only company that should be extremely diverse is Under Armour. And that's because they're in Baltimore. Can't get no blacker than DC. It was called Chocolate City. But let's get back on point. That's enough of the introduction here. The previous post, why black women hoopers failing to get signature basketball sneakers, I placed it on the brand. In this post, I'm giving you more texture. Angel Reese just got this NIL deal. Now, Angel Reese times Reebok is a positive. But this is the thing. It overlooks the underlying issue. And in this post, as opposed to placing it on brands, I'm giving a reason. And it's once again not going to be very comfortable to deal with. Hopefully you'll understand what I'm saying and what I'm getting at, because it's good information if we are able to discuss it. So let's get rolling. So when we look at Angel Reese getting this Reebok deal, let's go through what we've discussed. New Balance's first women's hoop NIL deal went to Cameron Brink. I click that and open it up again, and we see that picture. Puma's first signature sneaker for women hoopers went to Breanna Stewart. Nike's most recent signature sneakers went to Elena and Sabrina. StockX, right, did an NIL deal with a women's basketball player, and that player was Paige Buchers. And if you're not sure of who that is, I'll do a quick search. Paige. All of these women have one thing in common: they're white. Now, Under Armour, interestingly enough, they broke the trend by signing Diamond Miller. And you see her in the picture below. Letitia Amahir also signed with Under Armour this year. But they also added Rena Mabry and Kelsey Plum in the last year. So they keep their roster balanced. And kudos to Under Armour for staying balanced. Adidas, and we're looking at women's athletes, right? In particular basketball. Adidas stole Aaliyah Boston, black, away from Under Armour because she went to an Under Armour college, but she didn't sign with Under Armour. And she would have been perfect for a signature sneaker with Under Armour because she's going to have an amazing career. Hopefully, fingers crossed, she's going to have an amazing career. She already got Rookie of the Year. So Adidas has a Rookie of the Year on their roster that they can begin sharing the spotlight from Candace to Aaliyah Boston. That's a beautiful thing for Adidas. And it's a discussion for another time. Angel Reese landing this deal with Shaq and the Authentic Brands owned Reebok. That's a good thing for Angel. But there are these NIL deals flying around. All of these brands. And those signings are good. But the holy grail for every athlete in this day and age, the holy grail is what Puma and Nike delivered to their signees. And that's a signature sneaker. So why aren't these black women getting signature sneakers? Well, let's think about NIL. What does NIL really accomplish? So when we look at Angel Reese and we say Angel Reese got an NIL deal, what does it really accomplish? There's an interesting discussion to be had about the effectiveness of NIL for brands, right? There's a discussion to be had about signature sneakers. And there's a discussion to be had about endorsements overall. Now, I talked about this in this post that you see to my side on what a successful partnership looks like. And it was about Wolverine, the boot brand, and the University of Michigan football team. And I was like, that's a successful NIL. It simply matches. University of Michigan, Wolverines, the football team, workwear, boots, these big old dudes. They go out here and they're carrying the wood on their shoulders. It's just a really good NIL deal. But this is the thing. Does that help Wolverine sell boots? It's not quantitative. We can't really measure if there's been an uptick in sales because we would have to go out and ask Wolverine if they had an uptick in sales since they did this NIL deal with the football team. NIL deals are primarily about recruitment. And to be honest, the influence an athlete has on a purchasing decision is not quantitative, like I said. Angel Reese's NIL is temporary. And it's a temporary light that elevates her status. But it'll probably do very little in selling more Reebok product. And I say little and I want to speak Japanese and say chisai, small. I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope Reebok sells a ton of stuff with Angel Reese because that would make it a funnel for other athletes that look like her to get those deals. But let's think about this. The marketing strategies by sneaker brands all rely on antiquated attempts at chasing cool or convincing fans people aren't being paid, right? What do I mean by that? Look at this picture to my side. This was from a complex sneaker shopping episode with Steph Curry, where he's gifting the girls his sneaker. Now they come into a resale shop in the Bay Area and they have all these Nikes on the wall and you can clearly see that they put a bunch of Currys on the wall for Curry to talk about in this sneaker shopping. And it was the most awkward, bad marketing that I've seen. And the look on these girls' faces, and there's a reason I chose this picture for this article. If these girls aren't excited to be around the greatest three-point shooter in the history of the NBA, and they don't really want these Under Armour shoes, what exactly is influencer marketing? And what are the real numbers behind it? Now, if you want to read about this picture that you see here, I did an article on it and I talked about the commodification of sneaker culture as it relates to sneaker shopping. And I'll put that in the description. The underlying issues with sports and with black women hoopers not getting signature sneakers or the marketing that happens in the sneaker industry, the underlying issues have to be discussed. While we know the WNBA is overwhelmingly black, youth and travel basketball is expensive. Listen to where I'm going now. And therefore, it's whiter than what you see in college basketball in some instances. Well, let's not place it on being whiter. Let's pull it back and say that travel basketball is expensive on the girl side. Boy side, teams are built around, all right, let's be honest. If you go to a boys event, you're going to see a white team and you're going to see a couple of black kids who are like standouts on their team who don't pay for anything. That's just keeping it real. I was a head basketball coach. I was a college recruiter. I know these things and I saw it all the time. On the girls' side, those teams tend to be white as well. So when you go to a recruitment thing in basketball, you're going to see a lot of white girls. But I'm not going to make it about the fact that these are white girls that are on these teams and that this is what the teams are kind of catering towards and the brands are catering towards. I'm going to say that it's upwardly mobile families. Now, upwardly mobile families, middle class, upper middle class, who can afford to send their daughters to these big camps that have these extensive costs and the training sessions, those upwardly mobile families tend to be of a certain culture and background. So in youth sports, we see an underlying issue. The game is becoming more specialized and professional. Basketball is becoming, Overtime Elite pays the high school players. That's not a knock. That's just saying that it's becoming more professional. The ability to be recruited shifted a long time ago from college coaches going to a high school game. And it's changed to viewing periods. It's changed to handlers and travel basketball. And this is particularly true on the women's basketball side of the equation. And let's be fair, across the board in all sports, soccer, volleyball, baseball, softball, it's the same thing. If you're not traveling, you're not being seen. The likelihood of getting a scholarship decreases. Now let's go back to Asia. Asia doesn't have a signature sneaker. I said that it was the brand's problem. I am now adding that it's rooted in a systemic financial history of class. Now we have Shaq offering Angel an NIL deal, and I'm saying that it's worthless because it doesn't change the real problem. The real problem is the cost associated with travel basketball, and the girls who are playing tend to look like Paige Buchers. They tend to look like Breanna Stewart. They tend to look like Sabrina Ionescu. They tend to look like Elena Deldon. And it's unfortunate. And I hate to say that the Angel Reese deal is not important, but it doesn't attack the real problem. Black girls have to overcome, and this is going to get heavy, religious burdens to play sports. In the black community, basketball is seen as gay. It's a gay sport, women's basketball. And these black families that are rooted in religion are notoriously difficult to navigate for gay people. You have some instances where the families are accepting, but it's extremely hard for a girl to come into being who they are in a black family. You know what? I take that back. In a religious family across the board, it's difficult as hell for gay people to navigate those situations. And when you have black folks looking at the sport and saying all of those women are gay, that's an underlying issue. Finances, the religious aspect of people looking at something as being gay. And then you have another underlying issue, and that is hair. And somebody might laugh at that. And I'm going to tell you, you don't understand black women if you're laughing at what I'm saying. Black girls have to overcome hair concerns. If you look at Angel Reese, right, and you look at that hair, and you look at what she dang, that looks like Meg Thee Stallion. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking that at all, man. I'm just telling you that when you look at a lot of the black women athletes, these hoopers, they have these flowing hair and ponytails. Sport activities sweat out hairstyles. And the cost of hair upkeep is an extremely important barrier for black girls. I'm going to say that again. The cost of hair upkeep is an extremely important barrier for black girls. In Angel's interview, right, and I put that link up here at the top. You can click through. It talks about staying in your box and these sports moments and what her favorite shoes are and working with Shaq and all of these different things. But it does not address the fact of hair, financial difficulties, traveling, basketball, playing in camps, getting training. Her interview doesn't touch on any of that, and it's a failure by Reebok to not do so. But I can't just blame Reebok. None of the brands touch on these things. Now, as a former high school basketball head coach and a current track and field high school coach, I know hair to be a serious issue. Protective hairstyles, right? Braids. It's expensive to get your hair braided a lot. It's expensive to maintain. And girls participating in these activities of track and field and basketball and softball and all these different things, girls from low income families, they can find themselves being on the outside looking in because of hair. And that's not a joke, and you shouldn't be laughing at it. And I hope you aren't, and I hope you understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of historical precedent here. And I hate to generalize, but the most overweight segment of the population by race, black people. And it's a reason that black women have high obesity rates. And hair, believe it or not, is at the root of it. And that's an uncomfortable thing to say. But if I don't talk about it, when else are you going to hear about this in regard to sneakers and sports? Probably never. These underlying issues of sports have to be addressed specifically for black girls. They have to be. Giving Angel an NIL and giving Asia a signature sneaker, those things are obvious. You just give it to them because they're very popular people. They're great athletes. But here's the thing. When the majority of young athletes who can afford to participate in the sport and the majority of the fans that are at games, when they look like Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers, the reality is the people inside of the brands are going to take the path of least resistance. So when we ask the question, why are black women not getting sneakers, we revolve right back to the path of least resistance and the brands. Now, in a recent post on the upcoming Anthony Edwards signature sneaker from Adidas, I delivered data on Adidas's other signature athletes. I use third-party data because there aren't available numbers from point of sales at retailers or brands. Now, the third-party data that I use is a window into retail. The sneakers being sold tend to be acquired via arbitrage. So when these shoes are being sold on third-party platforms, more than likely they're on sale. That means the people that are buying these shoes, these sellers of these shoes, are taking a risk on markdown inventory. Now, the brands could also be doing this and taking a risk. They may have brand registries on these websites, right? So the brands and retailers and the sellers that buy via arbitrage, they're all trying to get a return on the investment. So it's a good place to look at. It's this third-party data. The sneakers that are on this third party, they sell for a fraction of the SRP, which means the shoes are probably marked down even lower than what you see the average sold price is in these data sets. Now, I previously wrote an extended report on the launch of the Ja 1, and I found that hoop sneakers are seasonal and no longer casual. This seasonality offers a chance to get back to the underlying issue in signature sneakers for women. Basketball sneaker sales no longer make up a majority of the kicks being sold. In other words, signature sneakers are kind of loss leaders in a sense. When you think about how much money the athlete has to be paid, the marketing that goes into it, the design of the shoe, the manufacturing, and then those shoes get marked down considerably and they don't sell through. This is not the 90s and the 2000s are long gone, right? Brands have to be very strategic in developing signature product. This means the risks are measured from those brands. And once again, that takes us right back to the fact that the girls that can afford the training, who are playing travel basketball, tend to look like Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers and Elena Deldon and Sabrina Ionescu. And we keep going down the list of even Kelsey Plum. These are the facts. Now, let's get into the data on sneaker sales. So I'm going to go to these charts. And what I want you to note is the extended period of time for the data here. I'm taking October 2021 to October 2023, 2 years of data in third party. And remember, these data sets are going to be much smaller than what you'll see at retail, but it's going to give you an example of why people aren't rushing to give signature sneakers. I'm not absolving the brands for having white women with signature sneakers and no sisters. I am not absolving the brand. I am simply trying to give you the facts that these shoes don't sell very well. So we have to be understanding about what the market wants. All right. So in these searches, I used the broad terms of Puma plus Stewie plus women's. I used Nike Sabrina 1 plus women's. I used Nike Air Deldon. And then I used Adidas plus Candace Parker. And this gave me a data set that is very interesting to look at. And the most important aspect of this is that I did it for women's, where women are probably searching. And then I did it and changed it to men's, where men's are probably searching. And what I want you to look at is the stark difference between both. And I also want you to look at something really interesting, which is how the Sabrina 1 is performing. So let's look at these charts. So women's signature sneakers, right? If you look at this, 145 pairs sold for the Puma Stewie at $46.72. The shoe retails for $130 or $120. Matter of fact, let me make sure I'm right about that and go to Puma and click off of there and go to Puma. Puma.com. As a matter of fact, I can click us.puma and then I can click backwards and then I can go to women and I can go to basketball and that'll give me the price. That's the Mellow. The Stewie is $125. So if the Stewie is $125 and the average sold price is $46.72 in third party, that means those shoes had to have been marked down to like $29.99 or even lower, $19.99 for someone to recoup any money at all at $46 on an average sold price. The Nike Air Deldon, only 23 sold in third party in 2 years. The shoes are sitting inside of clearance stores. Now, the fact that they're selling at $80.46, that's compelling. But that's not a good thing because Deldon was a $125 shoe as well. So $125, I need to go in and do the numbers and how much of a discount that is. Now, the one that's extremely interesting is the Nike Sabrina 1. The Nike Sabrina 1, 64 pairs sold. The shoe just came out this year, probably about 3 months ago. It's not very old. That shoe is selling at $167.98. The shoe only costs $130. The average sale price is $167. And here's what's wild: when you go to men's, it's $191. Why? Why is the Sabrina performing so well? Why is the Sabrina doing those kind of numbers? That's insane. And once again, we get Adidas with 530 pair of Candace Parker sold, but that also includes some collab shoes that she did that were not specifically basketball only. However, once again, her shoe, $120 to $140 a pair, $48.46 for the average sold price. $530 dwarfs everybody else, but that price, once again, very comparable to the Puma Stewie. But you have that Sabrina that's sitting here. So let's go look and see what happens when you go to men's. You go to men's. Women's sneakers, and I'm using the brand, the style, plus men. We do a comparison to Puma Stewie. You get 11 pairs sold on the men's side, which means that men are not necessarily looking for the Puma Stewie. And when they do pay a little bit more for it. So more than likely, those are bigger sizes. But women look for the Puma Stewie more than men look for the shoe. The Deldon. Men are looking for that shoe. Interestingly enough, she's a post player, and the shoes are high top. So I can see why men are looking at the Deldon and they're paying more for it. Well, no, not paying more. It's $78.56, so it's comparable. It's pretty flat, but 228 pairs sold on the men's side. So men are buying the Deldon at a higher clip than women. The Sabrina, fewer sold, but at a much higher price point, $191. The Sabrina, I know this firsthand. I can pull data on the sales for Sabrina's through my own e-commerce. The joints sell. Why? You know why. If you're a sneaker guy, you know why. The shoe looks so much like a Kobe, it's uncanny. It looks like a Kobe. The Sabrina's doing fantastic. I think the Sabrina looks better than the Ja one. I think it looks better than the Luca. I think it looks better than the PG. And they don't even make the PGs anymore. I haven't seen a 7. But that Sabrina is an awesome shoe. Awesome looking shoe. Now, the Candace Parker on the men's side sells for a lot more money. So, once again, post player like Elena Deldon, post player, but only 29 pairs sold in 2 years. So, that's not a big amount. Those shoes tend to stay inside of the ecosystem of the brands or at the stores that the brands are dealing with. This is a lot of data. This is a lot of information. But what I want you to understand is when you look at signature sneaker discussions, the shoes don't sell very well. Giving A'ja Wilson a shoe is expected. Will it perform like the Nike Sabrina? If Nike does the right thing and they create that shoe and it looks the right way, it'll sell. And I think it'll sell at the same clip as the Sabrina does. But the Sabrina is in that line of Nike basketball shoes that come from the GT Cut, the GT Cut 1. And that shoe, if we go to StockX, let's go to StockX, right? And let's go to GT Cut 1 and hit the button on GT Cut 1. Those are 2s. I don't know why it came up with the GT Cut 2. Let's see if I can find a GT Cut 1. All right, here we go. Here's a GT Cut. And look at the average price that these things are selling for. As a matter of fact, you click off of it and you go all, close that little window, and you go down here to the bottom and look at the average price. It's $297 a pair for the GT Cut 1 with 304 sales in the last year on this one color. The Sabrina. And I mean, the Sabrina looks exactly like the GT Cut, which looks exactly like the Kobe 4. There's no secret to why that Sabrina's doing very well, but that takes us off track into a different discussion. Hopefully you stuck with me this whole time. I'm going to end this video. I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe. I love doing these kind of long conversations. I should probably try to do them live, but I simply don't have enough followers for that. So when we get the follower count up, then yeah, I'll definitely do these live where you can ask me questions as opposed to just sitting here listening to me ramble. That said, I appreciate you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.